Thank you for visiting Unfold the Soul and downloading this free resource from mission statement to mission driven, the three biggest mistakes that prevent why from driving everything at your school and what you can do about it. My name is Ken Williams, and it's a pleasure to serve you. I hope you leverage this resource in a couple of different ways. Of course, you can use it to deepen your own learning and build your own capacity as an individual teacher, teacher leader, district leader, or school leader. Or you can use it to deepen the capacity of your staff or your team. My professional development offerings are designed to validate some of the great work you're already doing and also provoke you to greater levels of effectiveness. So, provide some feedback, let me know what you think, and please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything I can do to help you deliver on the promise of equity, excellence, and achievement for all students, regardless of background. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Throughout this video, I'm going to be zooming in and out of the images, represents a ton of content on these three charts. I call them PD theme charts. And at the end of the video, I'll give you some information if you're interested in purchasing some of these for your school or district. These charts highlight big ideas within three distinct themes. The first one is why drives everything. The second theme is all students to and through the bar. The third theme is the answers are in the room. So before we jump into the three mistakes, let's just check in and talk about why is why so important. The reason I want to check in is because as I travel North America working with tons of schools and districts, and it doesn't matter whether the district is urban, suburban, rural, extra rural, like everyone's familiar with this whole why thing. Why is like a big deal. It's a big buzzword. Simon Sinek wrote Start with Why and just really invigorated the whole notion, even though why's been around since the beginning of time. And we love Simon Sinek's work and we reference it in our book. But what I find is like intellectually we know what why is about, but I don't know that I don't see it operationalized way too much. It's almost like the way I regard Carol Dweck's great work on mindset. You know, there are many places I go that where folks can't spout off what growth mindset and fixed mindset mean. We can correct Carol Dweck when she's giving a keynote, but then we turn around and I still see the same types of ability grouping, and so it's operationalizing it. And the why, I want to do the same with that. So we know why drives everything on our personal lives and our professional lives, whether we realize it or not. When our why is compelling, we're more apt to stick with things, to stay on course, to stay focused, to stay vigilant. When our why is not compelling, we are more likely to abandon or quit or not give full effort, right? Or work more out of compliance than commitment. It's not a good or bad thing, it just is. And so why is critical to have it clarified in your school or district. So there are times where I think we kind of get caught in just the mindset and the discussions around why, and we don't move to the operational part of it. This, much the same as I talked about with Carol Dweck's work. And so think about the last time you found yourself in a situation where you may have been up against some odds, but you had no choice but to make it happen. You had to get something done and you were not going to be denied. Or you're part of an organization or group that was out on this mission to make something happen and you would not be denied. And no matter how many slings and arrows and challenges and obstacles, how much adversity you endured, you were not going to accept anything less than the desired outcome. When you've been in those situations, and we all have been there, that's when your why is compelling. And that's what it keeps you going when things get rough. Like this is not some Pollyanna notion. Why doesn't shield you from adversity? It steels you. It gives you that extra layer of skin, like the Weeble, right? You see that? The Weebles wobbles, but they don't fall down. I probably lost half of the audience with that reference, but it's an egg-shaped toy with a weighted bottom, and if you tilted it, had on it painted faces of your family and community, and when you tilt it up, it stands right back up, and that's what a Weeble does when your why is compelling. When our why is compelling, we're just not going to be stopped. And so just imagine if our entire staff, if your entire staff was on board with a collective why. Like, what could we not do? What could we not accomplish if everyone had that same mindset and we operated in a very specific and focused way? So the first mistake we're going to talk about is this: when there's more statement than mission. Which all begins with, of course, creating our new mission statement. And that's where we get together as a large group and break up into small groups where we then have chart paper and magic markers and post-it notes and dots. And we do a lot of crossing out and talking about what we want our school district to be and what we want our school to be, and students and parents and all the stuff. We spend weeks and sometimes months collecting feedback and surveys and meetings upon meetings upon meetings and votes and denials and other votes, all in the end to produce the vaunted mission statement. So here we got XYZ School that supports a community for lifelong learners, prepare for global change, respect diversity, accept personal responsibility, and pursue a sense of fulfillment. Or, the mission of this school is to challenge every child's personal development of personal literacy in a nurturing learning environment supported by positive cultures, so forth and so on. At this high school, their mission is to enable all students to become self-directed and self-reflective learners. They will engage students in opportunities to improve their academic performance, develop their interpersonal skills, and achieve an understanding of their roles and responsibilities as citizens of our democratic society. I've examined the mission statement process in hundreds of schools. I pulled off a couple of hundred PDF files of different methods to develop the mission statement, and they all lead to the same place. And it's the reason why I've been saying for years the mission statement process in schools is dead. It is dead because it's the road to nowhere. Even though it burns tons of calories, takes tons of time, causes tons of frustration, and it leads us nowhere. And that's because we're more focused on the statement than the mission. The problem with the mission statement process in schools is that the outcome is the mission statement. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? The outcome is a statement. Now, the mission statement process is dead. What we have to be careful about is this: mission is critical. But right now we got more statement than mission. And we're spending tons of time having staff members memorize the mission statement, and students memorize the mission statement, and parents can't pick up their kids unless they know the mission statement. And it leads us to nowhere, because the bottom line is this: what does it mean in terms of the work we do and the people we lead? Can we get just a moment of silence for the mission statement? And I'm sure some of us are thinking out there, well, our mission statement isn't dead. I mean, look at it. It's all over the school. It's on posters and T-shirts and coffee mugs and baseball caps and lanyards. Let's not forget the lanyards. And listen, I'm all for spirit wear. I love school spirit. I love spirit wear. And I have nothing against taking parts of the mission statement and making it a part of spirit wear. But that's the least important use of the mission statement. The most important use is to have it define how we are mission driven, which leads us right into mistake number 2. In 9 out of 10 of the schools with whom I've worked, the focus is on the wrong question. That's the bad news. The good news is that you can change that today because it costs nothing except to change your mind, your paradigm, your mindset, and actions. The focus is on the wrong question. The question we constantly answer is, what is our mission statement? So if forming a mission statement is the wrong question, what is the right question? Well, the right question is this: what mission are we on? That's the question. What mission are we on? Just take a second and imagine a meeting where you're dealing with the question of what's our mission statement, right? And you go through the process versus a meeting where you walk in and you have to decide what mission are we on? You're going to yield 2 different sets of results. One's going to be productive and one's going to be counterproductive in isolation. Developing a mission statement and not going any further with it is counterproductive. It's useless. It's a colossal waste of time. What mission are we on brings a whole bunch of other elements into play. I want you to just think back and imagine in this country in the 50s and 60s, the civil rights movement. I know some would say we're still going on today, but the 50s and 60s with Dr. King and the civil rights movement and Malcolm X and all sorts of other folks who were involved with that. Anyone who's ever opened up an encyclopedia or been on Google or you lived during that time, it's pretty clear. The question is, do you know what those folks were about? Absolutely. All folks of all races, creeds, and colors coming together to fight for social justice, for tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. You knew what those folks were about. My next question is, did you know their mission statement? Did you know the mission statement of the civil rights movement? And I'm betting you don't. A majority of you do not know it. And it's okay that you don't know it, because what's more important is that you know what they're about because of their actions. Because of their actions. There's a women's suffrage movement in this country. It's over 100 years old. Over a century ago, women didn't have the vote in this country. And so a handful of women set out to change that. We know what those suffragettes were about. We can name some of them. But my next question again is, do you know their mission statement? Of course you don't. They may have had one, and it's fine for them. Mission statements are for folks inside the organization. But the more important matter is, what mission are we on? And so again, I'm not against mission statements per se. I'm against doing mission statement work and throwing 90% of our energy into that, and we don't do anything else with it. Right? And so there are all sorts of processes out there. Some take more time than others. In our book, Starting a Movement, we have a process for developing a guiding school mantra, keeping it short, sweet. But still, even with a guiding school mantra, none of it matters until you figure out mistake number 3 in terms of what to do with it. But if you want to cut to the chase, listen, here's the question. Are we learning for all school or district, or learning for some school or district? Are our schools built for teachers to come and teach, or are they built for students to come and learn? The answers to those 2 different questions are going to lead us down one path or another. But it's not enough to stop there. It's not enough to stop there. Which leads us right into mistake number 3. All right, so mistake 1 was when we have more statement than mission. Mistake 2 is when we focus on the wrong question, which leads us to mistake number 3, and that's when mission doesn't lead to changes in behavior and practice. And see, that's the linchpin. When we focus on a mission statement and creating a mission statement, that's very tangible. It's got to start, it's got to finish. It's something we get our arms around, and it asks a lot of us in terms of time and effort, but it doesn't ask for a lot of change. It just doesn't. And it opens the way to tons of ambiguity. When we, on the other hand, start asking about being on a mission, that's a different approach. One of the hallmarks of mission is that it requires sacrifice and commitment. It requires us to identify a handful of things we're all going to do in the service of this thing we're after. When people are on a mission, I want you to think about this again. When you've been part of a group that's been on a mission, what are some of the descriptors regarding how you operate? And here's what I hear all the time. Well, they're focused and sense of urgency and single-minded. And I also ask, when someone veers off, like mission drift, veers off the path, what typically happens? Well, we pull them back on the path. Of course you do. And it's never personal because it's always about the mission. And so mission requires that we identify a handful of practices we all commit to and hold each other accountable to in the service of the greater good, which is, when I work with schools, building a learning for all culture that delivers on the promise of equity, excellence, and high levels of achievement for all students, regardless of background. If we don't get to this stage where we're talking about behaviors and changes in behaviors of practice, then we're going to stay in the world of ambiguity and hope and BS and nonsense. This process is a powerful one if we make the time to codify it with changes in paradigm, changes in behavior, and changes in practice. So this question about what next steps should be, if those high leverage best practices and paradigms are not spelled out already and we're not sure what they look like, then we need to go out and research. But if you're learning for all culture, you don't have to search long. I mean, they are really spelled out and really clear. And when on a mission, nothing gets in the way of those things. What should our next steps be? The answer should be very tangible shifts in paradigm, behavior, and practice. A handful of things we all agree to do, which leave lots of room for us and our individual style, creativity, and approach. Folks who are on a mission, they rally around a handful of high leverage behaviors and best practices. And the mission is so important that no one is bigger than it. And when we confront one another, it's in the service of the mission. When we celebrate, it's in the service of this mission. I've got a friend and colleague, Janelle Keating, who is a phenomenal superintendent in the White River School District in Washington State. And she posed this question years ago, and it is just stuck in my craw, and I love it. And it states what you see on the screen. Imagine 1 month from today, what would people see us doing? And that's how she worked to move her staff from the ambiguous to the tangible. What would people see us doing in a learning for all culture? It's got to be more than, hey, we're about kids here. And so you've got to get down to those commitments, the ones that result in a change in behavior, in paradigm, in practice. And we all have to hold each other accountable to those behaviors because we're all about the mission. Ultimately, you're going to go about the task of identifying the handful of commitments that are aligned with a learning for all culture. What are those behavioral and best practice commitments? What are those things we're all going to do in the service of the mission? When you see groups of people on a mission, when you come across organizations on a mission, when you come across businesses that are on a mission, your experience is predictable because it doesn't matter who the person is, what they look like, where they come from. There are a handful of things they all do in service of that greater good. And we have to do the same in schools. It's always about the answers in the room, the talent in the room. And so for leaders Leaders have to make sure that our job is to hunt, gather, protect, and defend. Hunt and gather everything our teachers and staff need to carry out this mission, and teacher leaders as well. And then we have to get about the task of executing. So just to recap, mistake 1, when there's more statement than mission. Mistake 2 is when the focus is on the wrong question. And mistake 3 is when mission doesn't lead to changes in our behavior and practice. If this resource has revealed some opportunities for you to improve in building and solidifying your school or district's culture, then I want you to consider this last question. How do we have to show up to make this happen? If this represents change, that means we have to show up differently. We have to show up in a different place, a different mindset, a different approach. How are we going to show up differently to make this happen? As promised, at the beginning of this recording, I told you I would mention the PD theme charts, and here they are. As you can see, the theme charts are full of important messages and connections from my work in keynotes, seminars, workshops, and very customized on-site PD with schools and districts. It's a great way to follow up after I've worked with you and follow through on those next steps. Sometimes it's tough to remember everything that was said. And they come on glossy charts, 11 by 17, and easily displayed on walls and bulletin boards in classrooms. If you're interested in ordering some of these PD theme charts for your teachers, your teammates, and staff, go to unfoldthesoul.com/charts, and you'll find them there. They come in a set of 3, only sold in a set of 3, 11 by 17, color glossy for $20. For orders of 20 or more sets, email us directly, Jessica@unfoldthesoul.com, and she'll get back to you within 24 hours, and we will make special arrangements, and depending on how high the number, a price break, and get those charts to you. Hey, I want to give a quick shout out to Cheryl Kniesel. She is the artist who sketched these posters. Just watching her do it was incredible. And she does this for schools and districts all over the U.S. You can contact her at Cheryl Kniesel or at meaningfulmarks.net. I want to thank you again for downloading this resource, From Mission Statement to Mission Driven: the 3 biggest mistakes that prevent why from driving everything at your school and what you can do about it. I'm hoping that it will enhance some of your already strong practices. It'll change other practices. I hope it has you show up differently in order to deliver on the promise of equity, excellence, and high levels of achievement for all students, regardless of background. I'm looking forward to staying connected with you, staying in touch with you. And to that end, I'd like you to hang in there for another 30 seconds as Jessica has a couple of bits of information to share.
To stay in touch with Ken, email ken@unfoldthesoul.com. Call 877-6-UNFOLD. Follow him on social media via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or visit our website, www.unfoldthesoul.com. To book Ken to speak, email ken@unfoldthesoul.com, call 877-6-UNFOLD extension 3, or visit our website, www.unfoldthesoul.com, and complete our contact form. Ken's calendar fills fast, so start a movement at your school or district and contact him today.